It is Footy Talks presented by Benjamin Moore. Great to have you with us, Luke, Stephen and KJ. We should know sometime Thursday night, maybe, if there is going to be a Supporters Shield this year, if there's an about turn. Apparently, supporters groups have now been asked. There's been more of a process to try and get people's opinions. I don't know, KJ.
You don't know where to start, do you?
He's scared to ask this question, isn't he?
No, how about you give us your opinion on the whole situation?
That's absolutely ludicrous, isn't it? I mean, we talked about the fans. I think, first off, the original statement wasn't good enough. It was lacking in any kind of actual proper, well thought through reasoning as to why this shouldn't be given. Secondly, then when that reasoning did come in, I don't think it was worth not giving a supporters shield for the reasons that have been outlined. Thirdly, the fact that it wasn't done with consultation with people who are the lifeblood of the sport rather than just this group makes it a farce. Fourthly, the fact that Greg Vanney and players learnt on Twitter of the decision rather than actually being informed like a proper business or a proper decision that was made within a league would be. All of this just comes to why the whole process is absolutely incredible that this has actually happened and got to this stage. And the one thing I would say with regards to the supporters, I know some of them that I've talked to, yes, they want to be in the stands. Yes, they want to have that ability to watch teams closely, to be there showing their support. I think some TFC fans would actually say that they feel as close to the team this year than they ever have because of what those players have gone through and done for them on their behalf. Yes, players are doing it for their own careers and because they want to play, but also they want to, part of them being away right now, spending all this time away from their families and being in Hartford, and you see Chris Mavinga putting out the photo of having to leave his kid yesterday with the crying face. They want to deliver something for the fans. And I think those fans would say that they appreciate the players just as much now as they ever have done because of that.
Yeah, no question about it. I also think that, certainly from a Canadian point of view, Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, those people who are in Canada right now would appreciate that. Those who aren't necessarily understand why you don't appreciate it or why you can't really understand it. But there's nothing going on here in this country. They're not allowed to go and watch their team. So what does that badge stand for? It stands for the city where these people live or what they represent and where they are. And that is a badge that they go out and represent from their home, that they can go and take and play somewhere else. That's why they're playing these games. Otherwise, why don't they just say, I'm not bothered playing this season, and you guys can all just play between yourselves in the US and we'll join you next year when hopefully we can play at home again. The sacrifices that they're going through is to represent that badge and that name on that badge and subsequently the people who care so much about it where they live and in those areas. So that's another reason why it was such a, I think, nothing short of an asinine decision, really. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And hopefully things will turn around. But I do think, though, going forward, Major League Soccer needs to have, and I'm sure that they have already, Stephen, they've had conversations that they can just never allow this to ever happen again. If you're a forthcoming organization, the way that they are, and they're thinking about things, you cannot allow the people with very little ramifications to make enormous decisions that have made this a big wave. You've got to step up and step in at some point and make sure that this doesn't ever happen again, and that you take full control. I know that they weren't in control of that. There was a collaboration, and there's reasons behind that. But yeah, this is with a reversal or not, good for them if they do reverse it. And it takes a lot of strength and power to admit that you've made a mistake in life. But still, this has to be something that Major League Soccer has to flag permanently, I think, Stephen.
Yeah, I agree, KJ. I think that, I'm not for taking this honour off the real supporters, the genuine supporters, the guys who are in the stands in Seattle and in San Jose and in Toronto and New York and Montreal and Vancouver. They're the real supporters. They're the reason that this is called the Supporters Shield. But then you have this group who make decisions on behalf of the MLS League title. That's what this trophy is. It's the MLS League title. You talk at length, KJ, really well about how we need to make these regular season games significant and how difficult that process is going to be for a summer North American playoff style league to actually have people see the value in Columbus v TFC and a summer's night in May when they could be at their cottage or doing many other things in the terrific city of Toronto.
Yeah.
So, this is the MLS league title. They have to grab control. I'm okay if it's still called the Supporters' Shield in some form, but they need to control that. They need to decide what happens with that trophy. This is their opportunity. And I don't think that we should look at this as a cynical opportunity. Oh, they're going to slap a sponsor on it. It's going to be called the X Trophy by the supporters or whatever that may be. I don't think we should look at it like that. I think we should look at it like the league should control their league title, and then they can push to make it as relevant as possible. And so I think in some ways, a lot of the power is going to be certainly dragged away from this group. Maybe potentially it won't be called the Supporters' Shield and someone else will be developed into that. I personally would like them to be involved in some way, but the real supporters, the guys that are there on the field in any of the wonderful cities where we have franchises in MLS, awarding that shield to the group of players that deserve it.
Yes, it's an unbalanced season. Yes, it might get in the end decided by points per game.
Let's say that right here. It's always unbalanced because you play teams in the West, some away and some home.
And the other thing I was going to say about that is MLS Cup isn't balanced either. You're giving your biggest trophy away over that. Like we're talking here about TFC will have played 23 games. Okay. You're going to give your biggest trophy away after playing 4 games, having reduced the number of games to a knockout round. You're also going to give your biggest trophy away. Like KJ mentioned with the Eastern and Western Conference trophy, you have to win maybe 2 games to get through and be an Eastern Conference champion. I think, and I've thought for a while, and KJ voiced it on the pre-game show, I think it was at the weekend, or maybe online. But to me, the Eastern Conference and Western Conference champions should be whoever finished top of that conference during the regular season.
Yes.
That is a way to reward the people in those teams that finish top during the regular season. It's a way to make sure it's a little fairer in terms of the balance of the schedule because the East plays a similar schedule, the West plays a similar schedule. And you don't win a trophy. TFC beat DC. They had a good win at New York City. They had a good win at Atlanta, but 3 games and they're Eastern Conference champion. Whereas I think you could do that by giving that trophy over the course of the season. Then you don't necessarily have to have anything for who is the top team of the East and the West in the regular season. You could just, especially as we move forward, guys, and there's more teams coming in, and it'll become even less balanced in terms of who plays who and which Eastern teams play the Western teams.
Can I ask you a question, KJ? Sorry, but I really, it's bugging me this. And I know that you have a far greater knowledge of North American sport, other sports, basketball, baseball, even hockey than I do. But isn't all North American sport, you could argue, is unbalanced? Because the Western Conference is stronger than the East. Then the East team, what I've heard in previous years in the NBA, for example, come through their playoffs or the season with less scratches and scrapes and hardship than maybe a team in the West.
Completely.
And the finals a little bit fresher. So I'd like us to try and put to bed this unbalanced argument. It's a massive country of extreme travel. There's never going to be pure balance like a Premier League, is there?
There isn't right now. No, I'm with you. There is a chance with expansion that we could get to the point where you could genuinely have regular seasons where in baseball they used to have this, where you only play people in your teams in your own Eastern Conference and like they've done this year. And then you get to a point where maybe if they extend it, where you play everybody twice within your own conference or something, and then that becomes 3 times, and that could be something eventually. But even if you do that, it's still unbalanced. You play 3 games against an opponent, 2 at home, 1 away, and so to speak. But I'm with you. I agree with Luke. I'd said the same thing Sunday pregame show. For me, if a regular season is going to take 9 months and you're going to play 34 games and you're going to come top of that, you deserve that trophy. And players may disagree with me. I've been on the field now for 3 out of the last 4 of them interviewing these players, and they love to lift that trophy when they win that final. But the genuine thought is all about, we just made MLS Cup. That is the goal. That is the goal of the season. So when they win that game, whether TFC beat Montreal, TFC beat Atlanta, they are excited to lift that trophy. But the moment they lift it, they can't wait to get their hands on the other one. And we see it in hockey. If you bring it up NHL, we see it in hockey when they win their conference. Some of the players don't even touch that trophy because they don't want to jinx it because of the real trophy for the Stanley Cup. So I understand this league has got influences from North America that's always going to be there. But I think the influences from the world are just as strong now. And I think you have to find a way to reward sustainable success. And that Eastern Conference trophy and that Western Conference trophy are enormous accomplishments. And if you can put that at the top of that league standing, it's a separate competition completely. Playoffs start, you only win 3 games, you get there, you're in the finals. It's a separate competition. You can award MLS Cup that way. But if you don't win MLS Cup and you win the conference over 34 games, you have silverware, proper silverware, that is a good season. For example, if we want to bring it back to Toronto FC are the best team in Major League Soccer right now. The best team in MLS. Your eye test tells you that. The stats test tells you that. The league table tells you that. But I'll say it right now. They are not favorite to win MLS Cup. No team has ever won 4 away games in a playoff series to get to and win an MLS Cup. That's what TFC have to do. They're not playing games at home. So if TFC don't win MLS Cup this year and say they don't win the Supporters' Shield or a league trophy, is it a bad season? Some people would say that it is, but it's not. So what are you going to do to reward that season that they've done here? This game this weekend, Supporters' Shield or Supporters' Shield, Philadelphia versus TFC under our plan, that's the battle right there, top of the table, clash for the Eastern Conference trophy. 4 games to go. Who's going to win the Eastern Conference trophy? It's a brilliant storyline. Again, it brings tremendous value to the regular season, which they've got to do. Every game matters in the European leagues, guys, because of promotion and relegation. And if that's not going to come here in Major League Soccer, we have to find a way to sell these games. Every game matters. No, Newcastle, Brighton in September. Oh, this is a big game for Newcastle. They can't lose this. They might get relegated. That's in 8 months, but there's still a big game. These games have to matter, and that's an enormous reason for it. And I think if you award them wonderful Eastern and Western Conference trophies, which they are, for the league title, I'm totally with you both. I think it's a great idea.
TFC top right now of the Eastern Conference. I think they'll all have been watching that game on Monday night when New England came back late, almost got a point against Philadelphia Union, but Philly went into New England and won by 2-1 to keep hot on the heels of TFC. So it's really tight at the top. And we saw these two teams meet just a couple of weeks ago at Rentschler Field when TFC found a way to get the job done. We said at the end of the game last week, champions find ways to win games. And right now, that's what TFC are doing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And when you look at the teams that they found a way to get through during this run, they beat New York City away, they beat Columbus, they beat Philadelphia, they went to New England and beat them, they beat Atlanta. And I know Atlanta are not as strong, but they're all big former or current big opponents in the Eastern Conference, Stephen. Every barrier or every challenge they've hit so far, they've rose to it, haven't they? So I think this is another one. It's tough to go there. But if you're Greg Vanney, you're coming back from Toronto, you've had a couple of days off, you're saying to your guys, this is it, guys. This is the best team in the Eastern Conference, not called Toronto FC. We're going to their stadium. We've been able to do this. If you don't get up for this one, then you're not going to get up for anything. So I think it's a real test for them to have that kind of playoff game before the playoffs start.
Yeah, I think it's going to have that real feel of a big game. I'm really excited for this one, actually, because I think that, with them playing just a few weeks ago and setting it up nicely with TFC coming back strong in the second half and really Philly looking quite leggy and bladed. And so I think Philly will maybe be a little bit angered by that, disappointed in their own performance and sort of really excited and saying, okay, here we go, roll the sleeves up. We're going to show these guys we're the best team. And we know the mentality TFC have. So I see a real psychological battle here, KJ. I do see two brilliant teams, but I think that there's a real mentality to kind of show the other one that we're the best, So I think we're going to get a great game. I think we've got two teams with somewhat similar style with the way that they play in terms of getting numbers in the middle of the park, more of a diamond from Philadelphia and potentially a box from TFC, but similar styles and real top players, numerous guys playing the best football of their careers. And that's something quite significant as well. And amongst all this drama, you've got a Larea and a Fontana and a Mavinga and an Aronson and a Bedoya. He's playing some great football. Yeah. So you've got some real performers out there. It's going to be a terrific match, I think.
the guests coming thick and fast here as we come towards the end of the show. Ali Curtis, the general manager of Toronto FC, joining us now from we said last week that Greg Vanney was in the presidential suite in the poshest hotel in Hartford. So I'm not sure if Ali is next door to Greg or if each have their own floors on floors 25 and 26.
Vice president's suite, maybe.
Vice president suite. Okay. How's it going in Hartford, Ali? Thanks for your time today.
Going well. I'm in the closet, so I've just dressed it up a bit, but I'm in a room, so it's going well as can be. I've got a roof over my head and food in my stomach, so it's good, and we're in a good place where the table is. So yeah, in a good place.
You must take immense pride when you put a team together and you hope that they can be successful on the pitch and overcome any challenges that come your way. You must never be quite sure whether or not you have that mix that is just going to click and that you have that group of players who are going to be able to get on with everybody. You must be immensely proud at where this team has come this season and the group that you have together and the challenges that they have already faced and gone through to get to this point, to be sitting where you are right now with 3-4 games to go this season.
Yeah, I'm really proud of everyone, within the organization, not just within TFC, but everyone that we've relied on, even folks like yourself that have been really supportive of us, in so many different ways. Really proud of that because, this is, as we all know, this has been a really difficult year for everyone within football, within the club, and then also outside of the club, all of our fans and supporters and the different jobs that they have. Of course, we talk about frontline workers and the work that they've done. And so really proud of everyone and what they've been able to do under really, really incredibly difficult circumstances. Hasn't been easy. And so, to come this far and be in, late October, looking at, 4 games left in the season and to have a chance is awesome and really important and great. And I think it's a reflection of the entire organization, top to bottom, and everything else in between.
Ali, there's so many different adjectives that you could have used to describe your team even before this season. And I know experience is one and the collective unity that they bring. But have you noticed when you watch them on the field that there's even maybe more layers of resiliency that this kind of season has brought to them? They seem even more of a tougher team and even more maybe a defensive team over the last few weeks than we've seen at TFC for a number of years, if ever.
Yeah, you a great point. You use a lot of adjectives and resiliency is a great word. And just to touch on the previous question as well, you do bring a lot of people into the mix. And you don't know how it's going to work. And it happens in every sport, whether that's the NFL or, you see the top draft pick and does he play, or the NBA. And so many people contribute and invest into bringing people, staff and players into the environment. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Nobody bats 1,000 in baseball, and in football, nobody gets it right every single time. This group has had a tremendous amount of resiliency. Part of that, I think, is also a result of, I think we have, there's been some consistency year over year. We have some really, really great veteran leadership. We've got a great umbrella company in MLSC that helps with guidance and resources and all these types of things, which are really, really important going through these difficult times, keeping people together, so many different lines of businesses throughout the country, throughout North America, have gone through downsizing and reductions and all these types of things that impact culture and impact kind of the fabric of what you try to achieve. And I think our organization has been really resilient and strong during those moments, which also resonates at the team level, whether we're talking about the Argonauts, the Raptors, or the Maple Leafs or TFC, and that permeates throughout the club. And our guys have had to and by when I say guys, I mean, staff and players. They've spent time, close to a month in Orlando away from their families. Then we're 14-day quarantine back in Toronto. Then it's 8 or 9 days in Hartford, 2.5 days back. Then it's 18 days in Hartford. Now it's about an 11-day stretch. And so, I think everyone throughout this moment has been talking about being able to adapt and be resilient. And I think our guys have done a fantastic job at it. I'm really proud of them. especially, and you've seen all these different events that have happened since May 25th when George Floyd was murdered, and all these other different things that have really impacted your psyche and rock your core. And our guys still have been able to go to work and do the things that they need to do to get the job done.
Ali, I think back to 2014 when I was captain in TFC and we made the splash with Bradley and Defoe, and we were quite tight and solid then, but I think we felt the pressure as a group to kind of have a kind of clear identity. And the point I'm making is that in 2020, I think TFC have achieved enough success that they can sort of play in any way that they choose. And I would like to know, is it an organic thing, the way that you guys are playing right now, looking so solid and maybe winning a lot of games by the odd goal, or is it a sign of the times, or is it just allowing these guys to go out there and do their business because you have such trust and they have such experience of winning and success?
That's a really good question, Stephen. I think that it just like a lot of different things, it's kind of a combination of everything, and so like, so much attention and focus has been on, okay, what do you do with this virus, right? And so, and even then there's not one different solution. Yes, it's it's hygiene, and then also it's testing, and then also it's distance, and all these types of things. And then hopefully at some point we'll be able to add into the equation vaccine. But even then, that's adding in one element of the equation. Still, all those other things may need to exist in order for us to have the right solution. And I think it's no different than with this team. I think that, and I think we're fortunate to have consistency, with our coaching staff, with our players, and they've played in big games, not just in at the club level, but also at the international level. And so we're fortunate to have guys that can get the job done and have gotten the job done in a lot of different ways, which allows us to, just like this pandemic, adapt for what's needed on the night. And, so much of this year is just trying to get through a situation or event and stay healthy. And, that simile or metaphor is that you use in our life is also similar to what we use in the match, and that we may need to adjust the tactics. We may need to tighten the lines and try to do everything we can to get a shutout, even if it's only trying to get the one goal result, because maybe we've had to modify the lineup, change all these different types of things and tactics such that we can try to get a result, because the games are going to come fast. We've never had to go Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, and just kind of continually do that over and over again. It presents not just physical fatigue, but also emotional and mental fatigue as well. And so I think our guys have been, again, we talk about this, adaptable. They've been resilient. Greg and the staff and the players have had to try to find solutions. You go in with a game plan, but then they've had to adapt within the moment and try to find different solutions on different surfaces in different markets. We've now technically played 3 home games in different markets, one in Toronto, in Orlando, and in Hartford. So you just gotta roll with the punches and then just try to punch back. And I think our guys have done a good job.
Sounds like whichever team this finishes first this regular season really deserves a trophy, like a supported shield or a manhole cover or whatever it is. I don't know, but sounds to me like it's probably.
Just go get a manhole cover from outside the hotel. You'll be fine.
I'm not going there. I'm not going to say anything about manhole cover.
We don't need to go there. Enough has been said, and hopefully the right decision gets made over the course of the coming days. And Greg Vanney was very good and very strong, and we all agreed on exactly what he had to say last weekend about that. I want to talk to you about Richie Laryea. And
can I touch on a little bit of that, though?
Sure, absolutely.
We'll touch on a little bit of that. I've been reading. First of all, I'm really uncomfortable talking about that. Supporter shield is what we're talking about. Before you're even, there's still a lot of football to be played, right? I mean, so that is, and you try to just focus on one game at a time. So I've personally been really uncomfortable just talking about that, but I'm very supportive of all the comments of everyone within our organization that has made with regard to that. So a lot of different thoughts, a lot of range of emotions. What I will say is, and I probably could spend an hour or two just talking about this specific, because it's personal. It's emotional, and we spent a lot of time on this, even here, just talking about like what the season has meant and all these types of things. And what I will say this is that I think that all of our staff and our players have gone through a lot this year, as everyone outside of football has gone through a lot, and just trying to cope and trying to figure things out and trying to communicate, trying to adjust to all the different phases that we've all gone through during COVID, and what we're doing with our business, what we're doing, going back to work, not going back to work, leaving your kids, leaving your spouses, missing birthdays, missing, wedding anniversaries, all these types of things. We've been on the road, especially as a Canadian team. I'm against any decision that doesn't honor that as well in an equivalent way, and it just is. It's super disappointing to read all the things that we've read. Also, you see. Even the vehicle for which this information has been disseminated is, if you looked at what's happened in the United States over the last 3.5 years, we know that Twitter is not the way to do things. There are other ways to talk about things, which is why I'm wearing a vote shirt, and I hope we go out and I hope Americans, wherever you are, whether you're in Canada or whether you're in the United States or any other parts of the world, that you let your voice heard in the way of sending in your ballot. Voting by mail is legal, and it's the right way to do it, especially if you can, and that's the only vehicle that you have. But yeah, I'd also say we at Toronto, we've seen a lot of our supporters have been providing support, and in that, and not in that decision, but also in terms of what's been happening throughout the year and what we've been doing, which we're really proud about. So I don't want to spend too much time kind of going over that thing, but I do want to say that I was fortunate. I won the Supporters Shield in 2015 when I was at the Red Bulls, and we put a lot into it. And it's not just the players and the staff; it's everyone, all the families. And this year has been yeoman's work. It's been really, really difficult. And I hope regardless of what happens, to be honest with you, at the end of this regular season, at the end of this playoffs, we're going to celebrate as a family. Because we've done so much. We'll continue to put everything we can, and we'll celebrate this year because of the year that it's been for all of us.
Well said. Absolutely. And I appreciate as well the fact that you and a lot of your players are using their voices for important things that aren't just football related. And you've done that on a number of times with us here on this show. Michael Bradley does it often. Justin Morrow obviously is playing a key role. It's more than about just being footballers. And that is something I think that has been a key value and will be obviously under you moving forward, Ali.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. It's important. It's, we all have this thing, these things that we do to try to keep a roof over our head and to feed our families and to keep ourselves engaged in things. And that's our work. That's our profession. And if we're lucky, that's also our passion. And I think that you also can't lose sight of life and what happens. And so, when I talk about, what this year has meant, and it's hard from a sports, people, I think there are people out there that don't feel that, folks within sports can have a voice on some of these things. Maybe they make too much money. They get to have a passion for a living or whatever it is. But, their kids don't think that way, and so when they leave for an Orlando bubble or they leave for Hartford, Connecticut or whatever it is, their kids don't all they do is they see their mom or their dad leaving for an extended period of time. And we only get one crack at this thing, in terms of life. And so it's important that we honor those things. And it's important that we do everything we can within the lines and outside of the lines that can impact our lives in a very, very positive way. And I think, there's a recognition that we've come so far, as mankind, but there's so much more distance to go. And, if anything, I think we've really seen that, the last 5-6 months. And fortunately, there's been a recognition of that, I think, at the board level, especially. I mean, I can't tell you the great conversation I had with our owner, Larry Tannenbaum. And then also there's been a reaction of reflection of all this, even at the player level, at the staff level. And so we're trying to do some good things, and we're trying to, you do have a platform. We're trying to do some really good things that can impact all of us within the game and outside of the game. And that's really, really important because, we want to 25, 30 years from now, we want to be proud of what we achieved within the game, but it's also our life. And we want to be proud of how we were able to impact people, relationships, and all those types of things. And for me, that's quality, and so, that's, it's not just how well you can kick a ball and do these types of things, but it's also, we talk about the character that you bring within the locker room and those types of things. I hope that people will be remembered and events will be remembered by not just what happens on the field, but also how they were and what they did outside of the field. So it's super important, equally important, and we're all trying to push equally as much.
My hope is certainly the same, and I will stress and tell you that we have those conversations more often. We want to do that on these shows. That's what it's about. It's a soccer show, but at the end of the day, 2020 has been tough on everybody. Let's just show everybody more love and compassion and be there for each other. That's what we're all there for. You say you hope in 25 years people will look back. I can tell you already, people are looking back and saying what a great job you've done already in this organization and your players in this league to stand up for social injustice and all of that. And I'll add this. I know the fans don't always have a voice, but I know listening to some of them, there's nothing more special as a fan of a club when you know that club represents the same morals and values of yourself. And then they can stand up for what they believe is right. And as I said earlier in the show, this is a country right now featuring 3 MLS clubs in Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal that are not allowed to play games in this country. And they have traveled across the border for those fans to represent those names on those badges, to be there for them and represent this country, wherever their fans are. And, amen to all that. Hopefully we'll continue to see that and put smiles on people's faces. Ali, just quickly from me before we do move forward, moving back to your point about Hartford, that has become a home. It's where you're representing Toronto. If you do go on and you win this league, all the home games will be played there, I would imagine. Is that now set in stone? How's it feeling? Is it feeling like a true home advantage? And if you do get all the way to MLS Cup, would that be where it would be played? Is that already organized?
I think what I would say is, I think if you had to make a decision today that would be long lasting, first of all, thanks for saying those words. They mean a lot. And you and I, and all 3 of you have gotten to know each other over the last really close to 2 years. And I appreciate being here, and I appreciate those words. So I think if there was a decision today, especially with what's going on, there is this narrative or a belief that maybe as things get colder in schools and now there's more play dates and all these other things, that has resulted in potentially the case count increasing in a lot of different areas, not just in Canada, but also in the US. So I think if the decision was today, it would be very difficult for us to play playoff games and potentially if we advance to an MLS Cup at BMO. What I think we've all experienced is that every week things change, with the pandemic. Ideally, our love would be to be able to play a goal to play a game at BMO Field, whether that's at some point in the playoffs. So we just have to wait. It's a wait and see, and we keep those conversations going. We want to be honest and authentic with what's going on with our fans and with our players in terms of this is the current state of affairs. But hopefully if things could change, that would be fantastic, where we could get into BMO Field and play a game. That would be awesome. With that being said, I think the people and the folks in Hartford have welcomed us with open arms, and we're so respectful and appreciative of that as well. I do think that we have a bit of a home field advantage here. I think that, a lot of folks, a lot of things have gone into making Rentschler Field, where we're playing, a real home field. The pitch is fantastic. We wouldn't have gotten this. I believe is the best solution that we could have hoped for, having to play games in the U.S. When you look at the facility, being a single tenant, all these types of things. The field is similar to BMO. BMO Field, I mean, the field is fantastic, especially when we put the hybrid in. So, but but this field is great. And so I do believe that our guys are starting to feel more at home, so to speak, than they were, say, like in Orlando and things like that. And I do believe that teams, when they come to Hartford, they feel that they're playing away. And so, which is really, really, I think, important. And, had we shared a venue with another club or gone to some other, situation, I'm not sure we would have gotten that benefit. But so far, it's been good on a lot of different fronts, and we do have a home field here. But yeah, if we got a chance to get back to Toronto, I mean, we would jump at that. That would be that's our home. That's where we're from. That's where we reside. And who knows, in terms of how things will change with this pandemic.
Ali, we're almost out of time. Just a bit of business before we go, and we really appreciate you taking the time today. We spoke to Greg Vanney last week, and Bill Manning was on the radio saying that a new deal for Greg is very, very close, within a few days, things almost agreed. Is there any advance on that right now?
You guys know me.
When are you going to tell us, yes, it's on the X-Try?
Yeah, what I would say is that, I think the whole coronavirus really screwed a lot of things up. It delayed a lot of things and all these types of things. I think we're all on the same page. Sometimes these things, just dotting the I's and crossing the T's and having the signature, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Nothing's done until it's done, for sure. Greg and I have had some really good talks. Bill and Greg have had some really good talks. The three of us have had some really good talks. I think we all know where we'd like this thing to end. I think we all believe that Greg will be the coach for Toronto FC next year and moving forward. He's done a fantastic job with the team, his family. He's got a great family. I really enjoy working with Greg. And so I'm hopeful that we'll get this thing done and delivered sooner rather than later. Now that it's out there, it almost is like we'd like to get it done sooner rather than later, just so that it doesn't become a talking point or a distraction and those types of things. The reality is sometimes these things, there's so many different nuances, and they just and reasons why you don't exactly get them signed and delivered and announced. But a lot of times, majority of the times, that has nothing to do with anything negative, so to speak, or anything to do with this moving in a different direction than where it's headed. Even I take call it our captain, Michael Bradley, even if you look at his situation in terms of last year and in the final year of his contract, and, there were many conversations during that year. And I think we both parties knew where we wanted this thing to land. It just sometimes takes a little bit longer. In his situation, it took, right after the season. Hopefully we'll have some things, hopefully with Greg, that will be buttoned up prior to that, and we can just move on and be focused. And it's also, I would say, it's one thing, it's the pandemic, and then it's also been kind of these games coming so fast, where you just don't even have time to react to a lot of the things that are outside of, and then just to be, I don't, also when you get back to Toronto, we're quarantined, and you've spent so much time away from your family that you really want to spend maybe those 2 days or those 48 hours just kind of like, and some just trying to recharge and shut it down a little bit so that you can kind of get back to the business. So all these weird things, I think, are these things that are happening that have happened are just, not characteristic. They're characteristic of 2020, not characteristic of the normal events. But I'm confident in where this is, the direction that this is headed, and where it will land. And so I'm hopeful that we can get Greg signed sooner than later.
I look forward in a few years' time to reading the chapters in your book on the 2 years of life at Toronto FC that you've had, your first 2 years at the club, because quite a few experiences within there, right back from the very start, Ali.
I hope I'm, I got to be alive, I hope, knock on wood. Okay. My goodness. It's been a wild one, but it's been good. I don't know. Sometimes you step into situations and you have an idea of how it's going to go and those types of things. And you just take it in and enjoy it and let it go. And it's been different. I certainly wouldn't have anticipated everything that I think that has happened since January 2nd. But I think it's made our club stronger. It's made me better. It's made me stronger and made me more open, changed me. I've grown. I'm enjoying it. And I'm like, I have nothing to complain about. We were at MLS Cup. We won the Eastern Conference Championship, last year. Now we're 4 games away and we got a shot at doing a couple things. Plus the Canadian Championship, we've advanced to that final. So, what is it? The end doesn't justify the means, or the means justify. But in all seriousness, there's been a lot of weird and strange and difficult moments, but there's been sometimes that's the best. And sometimes I've been able to see the best in people. I've been able to see the best in myself. I've grown. My voice has changed a bit, but I think in a really good way, in a clear way. And I've got good people that I've been able to work with and things like that. So in that sense, it's been fantastic. I want to keep it going.
Ali, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us and talk to us and the TFC fans listening today. Thanks so much, and best of luck the next few weeks as you get towards the end of the season and raising Greg Vanney's manhole cover.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. No problem.
Ali Curtis, the general manager of Toronto FC, with us. Always fascinating. You always want more time. So many topics that you can't get into, but also so many important things as well that Ali never shies away from as we just wrap up today. As always, great to chat footy with you guys and everything else. We'll do it again next Thursday and Saturday night. It's a big night on TSN. TFC involved, Montreal against NYCFC, Vancouver as well later on. So join us for that. But for now, thanks everyone. We'll see you again next week.
Be safe. Thanks everybody.